Welcome to I Spit on Your Podcast. I'm Tyler.
You introduce us.
Yeah.
I'm Tyler Ebert. This is Jonathan Michael Razanowski, and with us, as always, is Justin.
Yep.
with us, as always, is Bustin' a Nut Marylander. Welcome to Storm Warning. Welcome to. Shit, I said that. Welcome to I Spit on Your Podcast, the only horror podcast where all three members secretly hate each other. Where today we review Storm Warning, the movie where a man gets his balls eaten by a dog. Today we review Storm Warning, the best movie I've ever seen. Where today we review Storm Warning. It's a movie. We're probably not going to spend much time talking about the story because it is remarkably straightforward and simple. You have a husband and wife. I believe they're married. I don't know if it ever says if they're married or dating. Does it?
No, but they have wedding rings on.
Okay. We have this kind of lame guy, kind of nondescript, and his hot French wife sailing in marshes, which I guess is something people do for fun. You kind of get this forced plot where, oh, it's getting dark fast. Oh, we should go ashore now, even though we have no idea where we are. Just as this rainstorm is starting, they find this old farmhouse, I guess you'd call it. There is definitely Texas Chainsaw Massacre influence here, I think. This house is every warning sign you could possibly have. Pretty much the only thing it doesn't have is furniture made of bones. But what's interesting right off the bat is they just help themselves in. They start poking around, which I think is, I don't know, would you guys do that? Would you guys just start opening doors and stuff?
Probably not. I'd probably at least wait for someone to show up.
Yeah, it's not like they would have had to wait long, right? Because they got caught immediately. The husband discovers this greenhouse in back, full of weed. It sort of dates the movie, right? Because it's being treated like this super illegal thing, almost the way that you would expect like a meth lab to be treated. But it's weed. You also get, in my opinion, one of the sillier forced plot points in all of horror movies. The husband failing to turn off the light. And that right there I knew was going to piss Sean off.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely silly. You're trying to cover up your tracks and you kind of just half-ass it. Wouldn't you want to make sure that you dot all your I's and cross all your T's just to make sure that nobody knows that you were anywhere snooping around finding anything?
Yeah, I made a point too of how stupid it was. Why wouldn't you just take the couple extra seconds to shut the light off?
Just typical slasher or horror movie trope. Just, oops, I forgot to do it. But I will say that when the family brings it up to him, I thought that was incredibly smooth. And he's like, you left the light on. And I kind of was like, oh shit, he did.
I don't really blame the owners of the house for being, I mean, they're definitely creepier than they need to be, but they're pretty much just defending their private area, at least at first.
If you're in your house and some fucker is going through your garage or something, you're going to get a little pissed off and a little, irritated. You're not going to be warm and welcoming and allow them to just come in and have hot food, water, and fresh clothes. You want to like your characters, and I don't think that it fully helps you like these characters because they're technically in the wrong.
We get the introduction of the sons first. And the reason that they do this is to make the father seem more scary. This dynamic has definitely been done before, where you meet bad guys and they're bad and you're like, oh, these bad guys are bad. But then throughout the whole thing, they're like, and we better make sure we don't wake dad up. And you're like, oh, who's dad? You get this idea that he's going to be the worst one.
I think kind of the thought process of them not wanting to get him involved is that if they can do whatever they want to these people, but if Dad wakes up and comes down,
Then
we're
they
gonna
have
have
to do what
to
he
do what
wants.
he wants. So we don't really have any control whatsoever.
I viewed it as them being immature. I viewed it as, usually Dad takes the lead on when we do stuff and how we do it. But right now, Dad's not here, so we're in charge.
What we end up getting is this really weird, tense, and very awkward standoff. They wind up in this situation where they want the wife to kill the kangaroo, which is gross. Also, I've never seen a baby kangaroo before. That was weird.
That's really weird looking. I've seen a baby kangaroo and it looked nothing like that.
So to protect her husband's manlyhood, she does it. Then they want her to cook them dinner. It's a really weird situation that it seems out of nowhere. They go from this sort of tense, like, why are you in my house standoff, to this weird, like, forcing them to do chores for them. It's strange.
But I'm pretty sure he was like, we gave you food and clothes and shelter. You can't cook us food. Like, I feel like he tried to turn it back on them.
Plus, he mentions like all the shitty things they did, like, oh, you left the tap running outside, you let half a tank of water run out, blah blah blah. You kind of feel for them at first because they bring these people in, and then after they broke into their house, and then they're treating them well, they're feeding them, they're giving them a shower, they're clothing them. I mean, then things kind of start going off the rail.
When they first docked at the island and they were like being sneaky, and they saw the car, and then they saw the hooded figures, and the camera like pans back and you see them like dump a body or something like that. Wouldn't it be more suspenseful to not have known that they were dangerous and for them to reveal it later?
They have a few more tense interactions, mostly just the rednecks giving these sort of passive aggressive threats and being pushy and overbearing and creepy and just kind of generically threatening, and the couple just sort of trying to weasel their way out of it. But the reveal comes that they know about the weed. One of the only decisions in this movie I think is actually decent. It's one of those sort of, when you're watching one of these movies, a lot of times you're like, just run, just run. And this is one of those instances where we actually see that.
I actually, for the first time ever in a movie, I think that that's actually a silly idea, because they don't know this island. They don't know where they are. There's a storm outside. I know that this is going to sound very stupid, but I really don't think that things were horrible where they were. Are you going to be a full-fledged torture movie, and are you going to fuck us up and make us feel bad and make this really weird and gruesome and gross? Or are you just going to talk shit and let me go fucking shower?
One of the reasons I like this movie is because I love revenge movies and escape movies, but I'm not a huge fan of torture scenes, and obviously not a huge fan of rape scenes. I don't think anybody really is. It almost seems like they made one of those I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left style rape revenge movies, but just didn't put a rape in it.
I like revenge movies as well. I think that they're very well done. Obviously, I Spit on Your Grave. You and I watched the original and the remake and liked both of them. But in that type of movie, she truly, honestly is an innocent person minding her own business. They come to her. These dumb motherfuckers do the dumbest shit. They go on an island that they don't even know where the fuck they are. They go boating and they apparently don't even know how to fucking boat. And they go through these people's stuff, and then we as an audience are just supposed to be on their side. No, I can't support this. I can't like them. I can't be in their corner. Maybe if you look at it the other way, the people in the house, the family, they're getting revenge on you for going through their shit and fucking with stuff.
The first thing I had was like how much I dislike these two main characters. It's like there's zero character development of those two, like, at all. You don't know who they are. You don't know where they're going. Why are they renting a boat? Why are they doing anything they're doing? There's, you don't know anything about them. Going into that too, tying into the, what are these people? At one point, I don't know if you guys caught it, it's kind of a throwaway line, but they kind of admit to being cannibals at one point. They have this other dead guy. So what are these guys? Are they killers? Are they just angry that people broke into their house? Do they have like this pattern of behavior? But you don't really find out. Are they mad that people broke in, or are they out hunting for people to kill? Which is it?
I think that they go out and hunt for people to kill, and that's who that guy that getting beaten that we later see the corpse of is. And then at some point, they come home and they're like, well, looky what we have here. I think that's all that is. Also pretty fucked up that you guys want the couple to lose.
So if somebody breaks into your house and starts going through your shit, you want me to root for those two people that you don't fuck them up?
If I'm a cannibal rapist, then probably.
Wait, hold on. That's not even relevant or fair. Whatever you do.
How is that not relevant?
They were not going out of their way to find this couple to rape them and eat them. These people came into their house and broke into their stuff.
Also, how do you not tie in the fact that you just saw this truck dumping this body, the only people you've seen around, then you come across this house, you wouldn't think, oh shit. And if there's a back door to the house, why do you go out the front door to greet them instead of just running out the back and taking off?
But I'm supposed to root for these dumb fucks.
If the couple had been more tactful, if they had just come to the front door, knocked on it, waited for a bit, seen the people come home, introduced themselves, would the people really have treated them better?
It wouldn't have helped. It wouldn't have helped, and the movie would have continued. But you know what? Me and Justin would have 100% supported the couple.
And maybe if they had some sort of character development to actually invest me in these two people before anything, then maybe I would have cared. But before, they were just two people who rented a boat and ended up in this spot.
I don't think they were too worried about character development. This movie had a goal, and that was for great kills, great deaths.
If that was their goal, then they should have done it sooner.
I don't necessarily agree. I think that the long, awkward, tense atmosphere is kind of like a buildup.
I wouldn't say that they didn't plan on character development, because they developed the shit out of that farmer family a lot. You hear a lot about their story, and you don't hear anything about the other two.
That's because who's the movie really about?
Well, exactly. Right.
I mean, at first they were cool. They were okay. Like, you can't fault them for being standoffish.
Cool might be a stretch.
You can't fault them for being standoffish. As soon as they started talking about rape at the dinner table, nobody's hungry for that there, bud.
One thing, too, not related to plot that you can't really fault them on is the farmer family 100% outacted the other two. Like, their acting was just totally poor in comparison, and I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
I wouldn't make their home and their physical appearance so over the top. I think it's almost a little heavy-handed.
I think it wasn't too over the top, but it had that enough grunge level to it to be, like, reasonable. The only thing I thought was kind of over the top and stupid and necessary was, like, why the dog's head was all scabbed and ripped up. Like, the dog could have just looked like the dog. They did really good at, like, having opening shots of isolation and, like, how, like, dead out they were by themselves, but they overdid it so damn much. It's like, okay, we got the point. You don't need to give us 19 more of the same shot. When she grabs the knife to kill the kangaroo, both of the guys back her to her. The guy's got, her husband has a knife to his throat. Why does she not attempt to go after one of those guys with the knife?
If somebody had a knife to someone's throat, I'd be afraid to jostle him.
Go after the other guy if you have to.
But then the guy holding the knife would immediately slit his throat.
Not necessarily, though.
You don't think?
But I think they're so close brotherly that he'd be more shocked that it happened to him. Neither one of those guys realized she picked up that knife and was cutting the head off until they heard the loud thump of the blade hitting the table. Nobody saw her pick it up. They were both staring at the husband. It's like, why would you not even think about it?
Wouldn't that be grossly out of character for her for this point in the progression of events.
Out of nowhere, she becomes horror MacGyver, so I don't think it matters where she turns
Do
into.
not talk shit about one of my favorite scenes in horror history.
I think if maybe you had shown when she pulls that knife a little bit of hesitation, where should I stab this guy or should I just kill the kangaroo, it would have been a little bit more believable when she decides, okay, I'm going to start rigging up these traps to kill them. And in our minds that, okay, maybe there's a little bit more to her and maybe she has more fight than flight instinct.
If somebody's threatening to kill me and I have an opportunity to defend myself, I'm going to take it. She had a golden opportunity. She had it in her hand and she just falters it.
Sometimes wrong decisions are more realistic, though. Not everybody has the instincts of a Navy SEAL. The purpose of this movie is a setup for the finale.
The
They
purpose,
had, they had a finale that they want to do, and they cobbled something together to get us there.
the purpose of this movie was to jump on the whole Wolf Creek, Saw, torture porn, all the stuff that they put in it too resembles all these different movies. It's not its own movie. It's 3-4 movies put together, just strewn out to make money.
This movie actually doesn't come off as a cash grab to me at all. I think they really did want to make a good movie. I mean, they were definitely intentionally adding to that popular genre. You could argue that it's another kind of failed attempt to add to that genre, along with like, I don't know, Turistas. I don't know. To me, I do sense a little bit of passion.
I don't know if there's a single original thing in this movie.
You've said yourself, this movie reminds you of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so it has that. And Wolf Creek,
Those are the two big ones to me.
and it has the traps like Saw, and it has the revenge like
That's not a Saw. It's a booby trap.
No, but it's a similar concept. I mean, if Saw is out around the same time, you're obviously going to make that connection that she rigged up some booby trap. And look at the end result of that booby trap. It's a guy hanging by fish hooks. You know, that was very Jigsaw-esque. Right.
So they go into the shed for the first time, and they're basically told, like, don't move, we're going to come back, whatever. They get locked in. Is that where there's a scuffle and the husband's leg is broken?
Yeah.
Well, that's technically the second time because it's after they run out.
Yeah, so basically, like we said before, they get thrown in the shed once. They attempt to make an escape. It fails. They get thrown in the shed again. This time, the husband's leg is broken. Dad wakes up. And so we get our reveal of Dad. And I'm a little underwhelmed.
He obviously had a really fucked up, scary mindset.
Yeah, but I don't know. In a movie like this where everything else is so over the top, I don't know. I was kind of picturing more in my head. It was a little bit of I was like, oh, that kind of looks like a friend of my dad's. So now we get to see a little bit of the dynamic between this father and his two sons. And it's about what you'd expect, dysfunctional and abusive, but also with the sons exhibiting this very childlike dependence. Again, a little bit Leatherface, in my opinion. While we're getting some good old-fashioned domestic violence in the house between the father and the sons, we see, and you guys may or may not disagree with me, let me know, what I think is almost inarguably the centerpiece of the movie.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I think it's where a big part of their budget went. I think it was probably the most unique idea they had. And it's fucking awesome, and I love it unabashedly. She finds all these fishing poles. How would you guys explain this? Bends them all backwards tight. Runs the lines around something so they're kind of pulled back tight and fastens it with something that she can release. I think that she made the handle out of like putting like a hammer upside down in a vise or something like that, right? You never really get a super good look at exactly how it works, which is probably intentional because it probably doesn't work. With perfect timing, the dad inside gives orders to the youngest, dopiest of the two sons. Go in there and save me the girl, but kill the husband. Let's get this thing over with, right? The younger brother walks into the shed. The husband ends up actually being the one that pulls it, the lever, right?
Yeah, because she stands up to confront him. She's trying to convince him, oh, you're not this bad. You're just a victim of your father and your brother. You know, what about your mother? Your mother still loves you. Like, you're not this bad child, blah, blah, blah. She's trying to distract him and get in his head. And then as soon as he snaps, she gives him and he pulls the thing and it hooks him up.
You get this POV shot of all of these fish hooks and various little tools and sharp things just flying at 1,000 miles an hour at the screen. And not only do they blast him in the face, but they also lifts him off the ground. This woman isn't just a final girl. She's also an engineer because she rigs some kind of pulley system here. He gets hiked up off the ground, hanging from a rafter by these fish hooks in his face. It is the best. It's interesting when she goes to put him out of his misery with the gun. This is the same woman who was very against killing the Joey.
And the fish.
But the gun doesn't work. And then she bludgeons him to death. I think this is intended to show character progression, but my fear is that instead it might just kind of come off a little inconsistent.
It seemed like it was the least eventful head bashing scene I've ever seen in my life. And I think it's just the way they shot it.
I actually don't like in movies when the lowest level bad guy gets the most extravagant death. I feel like if you're going to have a big bang and a big shock that's going to, make your movie, why not save it for the worst motherfucker in the movie? And I love the idea and I love the trap and I think it's really cool. And it's the one thing that I remember of the movie. But that guy didn't deserve it.
Let me mention to you, too, that scene is ruined on the back cover of this movie. It shows it right fucking there.
Right.
Are you fucking serious?
I'm dead serious. I mean, look at that. It's right there on the back. You can tell it's him hanging by the hooks.
I understand where you're coming from. We're like, and we're going to watch this woman, turn into the final girl right in front of our eyes. But I don't like how it's done. I think it's more rushed than not. The movie's maybe an hour and a half, and for the last 20 minutes, she's, final girl, and that's it. So for the first hour and 10 minutes, she's just a helpless victim who shows no sign of anything. Switch is flipped, and she becomes this incredible badass.
There are worse final girls.
100%. There are 100% worse final girls. It just kind of feels like they did it because they had to do it. We got that budget check and it cleared, so now we can fuck some things up. That's how I felt.
I don't know if it's necessarily fair, though, to judge her because she's in a slow burn, finale-based movie. I always forget that Justin's a pop-punk kid.
Story so far, and knuckle puck shorts.
Anyways, from this point on, events move pretty quickly. The other brother enters the shed. The wife gets taken inside. I should start saying her name. She has a weird name.
Pia.
So she's put on the bed. The dad is gonna rape her. And it's gross. You get this reveal because, of course, he's gonna monologue to people you're just gonna kill anyway.
Right.
Shut the fuck up.
My favorite. In what has got to be the most disturbing scene of the movie. But the dad leaning over her, trying to get himself hard.
Oh, yeah.
You just see him.
They're like, all right, we got to put in some realism where he's trying to get it going. Of all the details that was lacking in this movie, that's the one.
That's the one thing they decided needed to be specified.
Well, we gotta make sure he gets hard before he rapes her, of course.
She then brandishes a broken bottle. It's a broken bottle, right? And she jams it, or I mean, they don't give much detail, obviously, but his downstairs situation is injured. And he goes into the bathroom and he's trying to stop the bleeding.
The dad's screaming, which irks the older brother, who then runs upstairs as she's trying to escape. She then falls through the ceiling, conveniently distancing herself from the brother, which she then pops right up from. As she's running out, then the dad confronts her again, standing there with this bottle attached to him. The dad walks out and is attacked by the dog, who finishes the dad off and kills him. So the older brother has now chased her into the barn, and he's playing, okay, where are they hiding? He shoots the one cabinet that he assumes that they're in, then opens it. The brother falls on top of him. He's screaming. He's covered in blood. The two run out. They run out. They jump in the car. And, of course, like every stupid horror movie, everyone forgets that you need keys to start a car. The brother finally gets up, runs out. And I actually liked this scene because the car is in the background, and you can see the two in the car, but the brother doesn't realize that they're there, and doesn't realize that they're there until she finally gets it to turn over a little, and he's like, oh shit, they're right behind me. For whatever reason, he's like, oh, let me get the airboat. This'll work. I'll chase them down in my airboat.
This fucking...
He, he's trying to pull out of the boat, and his brother's like tethered to it, so he's like pulling his anchor of a brother around. Eventually the boat gets caught. She lines up the truck after doing like 9 different forward reverses, running into things, to get him to the point where they're now face to face. She revs at him. He jumps onto the hood of the car. He's trying to break in. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, the boat is just so happened to be spinning around backwards. She notices, he doesn't. She slams on the gas. He falls into the big airboat, riverboat fan. Mm-hmm. Great kill. Very Leprechaun 2 reminiscent for me. And then that's basically it.
Did y'all just finish the whole movie without me? When he falls into the fan.
Yeah.
The CGI is a bit 2007.
Very, very bloody windshield that's suddenly cleaned off immediately when they drive away. No windshield wiper is wiping that off immediately. That was some chunky blood on that car.
Oh, there's a lot of chunks in it, man. I think that one of the, probably the positive of this movie is all the bad guys get fucked up.
They have very satisfactory deaths.
I didn't strongly disagree with any of the points that you guys have made, any of the criticisms. It's extremely representative of its era. It is a total snapshot of 2007 horror, which at the time could have been a detractor, but now there's almost a charm to it. It's an era in horror that I don't miss. I'm glad the trend is over, but it's also kind of a part of me growing up and falling in love with horror. That was kind of the backdrop to my kind of evolution into a horror geek. So there's definitely a nostalgia factor.
That time frame deserves a lot of credit for a lot more mainstream horror coming out. And I think that kind of like helped the horror genre as a whole just become more relevant again.
I just don't feel like this really was satisfying in any of the elements that it was trying to be.
I could not disagree more. Haven't you been listening?
I felt like you were going to give me a slow burn, but you didn't pack the details that you could have. You didn't give me the stories that you could have. Even in Hereditary, Charlie's head comes off, right? And then we see the results of it. So there are little boom moments in a slow burn movie that have, even minorly, they have a payoff or they build into something more. This just keeps spinning the same cycle until, they're ready to end the movie.
What about Pia killing the Joey? What about the brother revealing that he knows that the husband found the weed? It does have those moments.
That scene in the kitchen is incredible.
The older brother's the best actor in the movie. I think I'd be pretty comfortable saying.
Yes,
I agree.
And that scene gave me goosebumps. It was perfect in my eyes. What I'm saying is that they have these same things just go circle and circle and circle, and you do the same little roundabout, and then boom, now we're ready to end our movie. And all these characters are just fucking shitty people. Every single one of them is a shitty fucking person.
He is not.
And the woman who broke into somebody's house, ravaged through their shit, and then got offended with them when they were mad at her.
Okay. They didn't ravage through their shit. They walked around.
They trespassed. They
I'm not
absolutely.
saying wrong there. I'm not saying that they were in the right.
So then, how is she a good person?
But you're trying to sensationalize.
No, I'm saying.
Next time I'm going to hear you say they graffitied the walls.
No, she put herself in a bad position by being a bad person and doing the wrong thing.
She's not a bad person. Give me a break. Come on.
You'd be pissed off if somebody did it to you, Tyler.
Yeah, of course I would.
So that's not a good person. Good people don't do that.
I'll side with Tyler in the fact that that was more exigent circumstances for them trespassing at this point. They did make the wrong decision. I don't know if it's enough to call them bad people, though.
You can say that it was a dick move. I don't think you can tell me that in 27 years you've never done something that was a dick move. You're not a bad person. I personally don't think it was her fault. I think it was the writers. I'm almost hesitant sometimes to judge characters for things they do in poorly written movies.
All 5 characters, I don't feel like any of them are like sympathetic to the nth degree.
You don't think that the couple is sympathetic in this situation where the other people are cannibalistic, murderous psychopaths, though?
So I'm
like you wanted them to win, right?
I did and I didn't. I wanted the husband to die. I did. The dog was more interesting than this husband. I don't think that he did anything right. I don't think he did anything, period. All of a sudden, we need a final girl, so now she's going to be a final girl, and now you have 3 very good deaths. I'm not taking anything away from them. I think the dad got it the worst, personally, but that's just me.
Getting eaten alive dick first.
Yeah, with the glass, and I can't even imagine. And all 3 of those were nice. They were good payoffs, but I just wanted to see my good guys who made bad decisions and were already in over their heads and out of their element. I wanted to see them go through a little bit more, or I wanted to see them grow. Because this movie reminds me so much of a Texas Chainsaw, maybe knockoff or something like that.
It's a Texas Chainsaw Wolf Creek combo. Is really what it is, I think.
Right. That whole movie, I'm hoping that Jessica Biel goes fucking nuts on everybody. I know what she went through, and I saw her grow, get stronger, and progress. But this one, I didn't see that, and I didn't feel that. From where she starts to where she ends is an incredible improvement, and you have to give her credit for that. But where I feel she lacks, or at least the movie lacks, is that meat in the middle of how she got to where she was.
So she's a good final girl in a bad movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'd say that.
All right, so my final thoughts basically it was an all right movie. I kind of went into it expecting a little bit more. I think because Tyler has a more love of this, giving it the whole, it's kind of Wolf Creeky, got me excited because I really enjoy Wolf Creek.
Do you disagree that it's Wolf Creeky?
No, I totally get what you're saying. I totally understand what you mean, but I think Wolf Creek was much better. I mean, this was fun when it got to the point of her rigging that trap. Other than that, I really didn't give a shit what was going on. That mid scene where they're in the kitchen was really, really well acted. Like we said before, that older brother was definitely the best actor in this movie, and it's too bad that there wasn't more give and take with him and other characters. I think it could have helped a lot if some of the actors were better, particularly the couple. I think they were just the worst actors of the whole movie. I wish that those two, the couple, were had way more character development. I agree with Sean that I think the husband should have died at some point. It would have given her more of a reason to become this savage killer that wants revenge. It got better as it went on. Like I mentioned, once it started getting action-y, it got great. It's not really something that I'd watch over and over and over again. If I were going to do that, it would probably just be the last 20 minutes where things got crazy. So with that being said, my overall rating, I gave it a 4. Without the climax of this movie, it probably would have been a lot lower. And then scary rating, I went with 3. It has some pretty intense moments that are crazy. So yeah, overall 4, scary 3.
The movie's 86 minutes. It's an hour and 26 minutes. you only have to see the last 35 minutes of the movie. There's 5 characters and a dog and a kangaroo, and I like the dog and the kangaroo better than I like anybody else. Ultimately, it comes down to writing, and the writing in this movie just wasn't well done. They took inspiration from great horror movies and classics, and it's heavily influenced by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's in the Saw time frame, so it's going to be associated with that. It doesn't have the same, for me, feeling as those movies. They seem like more complete movies. In this movie, I didn't give a fuck about anybody. The best part in the movie is the kitchen scene. There's nothing better than somebody that you don't know but is clearly dangerous and threatening you, looking at you and telling you man to man that he knows he's got a secret and you know about it. It gave me chills. It gave me goosebumps. It was the best part of the movie. It was the best feeling of this movie. I give this movie probably about a 2. And I would have to agree with Justin on the scary level. It would probably be a 3. The scariest part would probably be in that kitchen scene. That's where it gets the majority of the points, of the 3 points. I just don't like the pacing of it, but I'd still watch it for probably the kills in the kitchen scene.
Storm Warning is as 2007 horror as it gets. Perfectly representative of a trend that was going on at the time. It has great kills, including one of my absolute favorites of all time. It has sentimental value to me. It reminds me of when I was in high school and first falling in love with the horror genre. I think that Pia is a good final girl, and I think that the only things about her character that bring her down are more attributed to the writing than the character herself. I personally disagree with my colleagues here. I don't find the way that she changes over the course of the movie to be that unrealistic. Finally being up against the wall, literally looking death in the face, that's when she would snap. I actually think it makes a lot of sense. It's worth noting that this isn't a subgenre of horror I'm hugely fond of. This one just it has a special place in my heart. Overall, I'm going to give it a 6. I loved the idea of being able to watch a rape revenge movie where I didn't have to sit through a rape. Maybe I'm just a big softie, but I don't want to sit through a rape. So the fact that this movie had a very similar structure to a rape revenge movie, but you didn't have to sit through one, I thought was extremely cool. It's also kind of a torture porn movie where you don't really have to sit through torture. So it kind of does that as well. In scariness, I'm going to give it a 7. The tension of being in pretty much powerless, being in the lion's den like that with these crazy backwoods psychopath rapist cannibals, and being in their kitchen and still trying to keep up the facade of being polite and friendly and kind of that awkward like yeah, because you don't want the situation to escalate. That situation gives me the willies. I think this is a 7.
So, as it's coming to my episode, I've been considering different choices. We have yet to practice on any creature feature movies, something that I personally enjoyed growing up. I watched a lot of giant snake movies, a lot of giant crocodile movies. That was my, I love that. I watched Anaconda so many damn times, I don't even know. I considered late phases, which includes our special friend Tom Noonan. I mulled over a lot of choices. Ginger Snaps was one, but I went a little different, and like I mentioned before, it has one of my favorite endings in a very fucked up way. I have chosen an adaptation of someone that I really enjoy, and went with The Mist.
Really?
Next week.
Which means I have to watch that fucking ending.
I like I said, I really like The Mist. Some people really shit on the concept of it, but I think that will be fun to discuss.
As is customary, we've had a good time tonight. We've made a lot of good points, had a lot of good discussions, and agreed on virtually nothing. Thank you All none of you. This is our 0 subscriber special. Be sure. I've always wanted to say this. It's almost a bucket list item. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so that you know the next time we're going to not agree on anything.
Don't forget to mention the Patreon too. We need fucking money.
For the gold tier Patreons, I'm going to be putting together a supercut of all of the times that Sean breathes in. Thank you for watching I Spit on Your Podcast, the only podcast made with all natural, non-GMO, grass-fed beef.
Y'all want drama? Wanna make a scary movie? Rappers coming in with their team and carry toolies. You could jump right out of the screen and barely move me. We hard hitting, directing and starring in it. Y'all want drama? Wanna make a scary movie? Rappers coming in with their team and